Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. I am not going to be in school today, obviously, as you guys can tell. Um, have a babysitter issue, so unfortunately, I got to stay home with the kiddos today. Um, so I figured it'd be easier if I just kind of walk you guys through and talk about some of these things. Um, some of the vocabulary and assignments that you guys are going to be asked to do. To kind of have you guys kind of plow through it. So let's do this.
Miss Evans, please call the main office.
There you go. All right, so crime vocabulary 2, I had you guys do this for an assignment. So you guys should all have access to this. This is not your guided notes, but if I were you, I would open up this assignment Google Doc. It should be in your Google Drive, or you can just open up the assignment just to make sure you guys are on the right track. Because ultimately, as I said, um, by the way, I don't know if I told you guys this or not. I think I told my sixth period class and my second period class. Really, your first, we call it test or quiz, will be next Friday. Um, so, these terms will obviously be on your guys' test. So it's really important that you guys are on the same page with me. All right. So for the first one, you guys should have defined some of these guys. I didn't have you guys define them because it's kind of self-explanatory. But stalking. Obviously, this is the act of following her or harassing somebody, causing him or her fear or injury, where they feel uncomfortable. You see this a lot in like celebrities where you have these super fans that are stalking them. If you watch the news, I'm sure you've seen cases of this with actors or athletes or musicians. So here's another big one too: assault and battery. Sometimes you might think of these as kind of very similar, but they're actually not in terms of the true definitions of what they are. Battery is much more serious than assault. Battery is the actual intention; it's the actual contact, unlawful physical contact with somebody, where you inflict pain without their consent. So if you're charged with battery, that's obviously more of a serious crime. Now you can be charged with assault and battery, but battery is definitely the more serious, where you actually make physical contact. You actually cause physical harm to that person. Whereas assault is just the threat of physical harm, where somebody reasonably feels like their well-being is um, uh, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a threat to them, where they feel uncomfortable. It causes reasonable fear. So you can be threatened. You could be like somebody's body language and how they're coming at you, where you feel a certain way, or language could also be used as assault too. So assault necessarily doesn't have to be like physical contact. Most times it's not. Again, it's just the threat of that. Through different situations. But the battery is the actual physical contact part. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So if you see it in the news all the time, assault and battery, or first-person assault, so just understand that assault is, a little, again, it could be a few months in jail, it could be fined, it just depends on the jurisdiction, depends on the state, they all have different laws against it. Battery is much more serious. All right, so arson. Arson is the deliberate and malicious burning of property. So when somebody purposefully sets something on fire, a building, a place of business, and you're charged with arson, again, that's when you deliberately set something on fire. That would be charged with arson. Again, a very serious crime. Vandalism. This is when move my screen here. When you deliberate destruction or defacement of property. Again, a pretty serious thing. So if you were to go to a building and you were to, spray paint it, or you were to put markings on it, or you were to cause damage to a building of some reason, again, that would be vandalism. Okay, a motive is pretty important, and we'll talk more about this when we get into our crime scene and that kind of thing, and criminals. But motive is something that's really important for the prosecutors to establish, is a reason a person commits a crime. Do you owe somebody money? Have you been wrong? So you see this a lot in murder cases. There's usually motives. There's usually a reason for why somebody commits a crime against another. There's usually some type of motive, some type of plan. You typically know that person. All right, now we're gonna get into the different kinds of like murders, I guess you can say. You obviously have your homicide. Homicide means the killing of another person. Now, negligent homicide would be causing death through negligent, careless behavior. So obviously, you were negligent, you didn't do it on purpose, but through your careless action, um, that resulted in death. You could maybe see this in doctors, you prescribe um, a different medication or too much medication, or you make a mistake. Obviously, you didn't intend to kill your patient, but you did it through negligence. So that's where that would fit in. All right, now you have your different degrees. This picture of Aaron Hernandez, by the way, former Patriot. But voluntary manslaughter is like the heat of a passion crime, where you kill somebody without malice or prior intent. So you didn't go in attempting to kill somebody with a plan, or it was not premeditated. But through a heat of a passion, where you become emotionally disturbed, there was no cool down period, meaning that you didn't like sit on it for a day or two. You were very reactionary in your mind. It's like the example of walking on your spouse having an affair on you. Boom, you lose your mind. It's the heat of the moment. It's extremely passionate. Again, there's no cooling off period. If you were to kill somebody, it would be voluntary manslaughter. Again, you'd still be punished. That wouldn't excuse it. But the it's much less severe compared to where, like you guys saw in the video, like Scott Peterson, he planned out the murder. Then you have your involuntary manslaughter. This is, an unintentional killing that results from recklessness. So this is an example of like you're playing with a loaded gun and it accidentally goes off and it kills somebody. Again, you didn't intend for that to happen. It was an accident. So that's why it's involuntary. Involuntary means it was an accident and didn't mean to. But again, there's still a punishment associated with the crime. Then you have your first degree murder. This is planned in advance and done with malice. It was premeditated, so Scott Peterson would fall in this category. He planned it out. Second degree murder is intentional killing done with malice that is not planned. So sometimes, voluntary manslaughter and second degree murder can sometimes go hand in hand. Or it's very hard to distinguish between the two. So sometimes they can kind of be linked together. And then you have your third degree murder is more intentionally harming someone but not expecting the victim to die. So maybe if you were to get in a fight, and the injuries that you inflicted upon them might result in death. You meant to harm somebody, but you didn't expect them to die. So that's kind of where that would fall into that category. All right, burglary. We'll get into burglary and robbery in a minute, but burglary, I guess, to start off, burglary and robbery are very similar, but burglary is when you break and you enter a building with the intention to steal something. So if you know that the place is abandoned or somebody's not home, you break in, you steal, that would be burglary, simple burglary. So think of like Home Alone. Their intention is at first to steal the belongings that belong to the McAllister's house. Boom, that'd be burglary. All right, now obviously you get into different types of rapes. Obviously, I would imagine it's pretty self-explanatory. That's why I really didn't have you guys define this, but you have your acquaintance rape by a person known to the victim, and you have your statutory rape would be with a minor. So some of you see charged with this where you have like somebody who's in their 20s dating somebody who's still, I guess, below 18. Where they can be charged with this. Whether the person who's willing or not doesn't make a difference. Most states have a clear distinction where if you're not 18 and you're involved with sexual relations with somebody who's older, you can technically be charged with that. All right, extortion. When you take property illegally by threats, when you blackmail somebody. So like this picture down here would be an example of that, where you say, "Hey, give me this, or I'll release a tape or a conversation." So, like for instance, if you knew somebody and you tape recorded their conversation and it was very incriminating, you're like, "Give me $1,000, or I'm going to send this tape to the police." You're extorting somebody. You're blackmailing them. So that's what extortion means. Embezzlement. You see this a lot in like, wills and whatnot, but or in business white collar jobs is when you take money or property by a person that is entrusted with it. You're maybe you see this a lot in banking or investments, um, where people are for instance, I give money to my stock investor, and my stock investor behind closed doors is siphoning some of the profits and some money away from me without really me even knowing it. It's basically stealing money from me. I entrust him to do his job, but he's funneling money to himself. That would be embezzlement. Larceny means to steal. Now, this is kind of going back to robbery and burglary. This is where they're different. So burglary, again, is breaking and entering a building with the intention to steal. But robbery is when you take something from someone using force or intimidation. So I guess this picture down here would be a better example of that, I guess. But you're using a weapon or armed robbery. It's more serious, but so you're using force, you're using intimidation. You break into somebody's house, the person's there. So your intent is to burglarize the place with somebody's home, and then from there you're going to use, if you stay there and you intimidate them and you use force, you push them, you hurt them, whatever the case might be, you punch them, assault them, that would then turn into a robbery case. The rest, guys, is pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if I really even had you guys really even worry about this. So anyway, I wanted to provide you guys some explanation on that. So hopefully you guys went through your notes. So what I want you guys to do, if you guys go into Google Classroom, like you guys probably already are, I have a couple things for you guys to do. So I guess the first thing I want you guys to do is do the Google form. If you guys notice, there's a form that I have here. You're going to be using some of the, here's a kind of explanation and the definitions of all the homicide scenarios. So I want you guys to obviously name your period, and I want you guys to go through and read each scenario and decide, was it second degree, is it involuntary, is it first degree, is it voluntary? You can do, there's 4 scenarios. This one just practice to see, make sure you guys are understanding the different voluntary manslaughter, involuntary, first degree, second degree. So you could obviously use your notes for that, but also you can use this up here, just kind of will explain it to you. So make sure you guys do that as well. And then I attached a video clip about J.C. Lee Dugard. I'm not going to have you guys do questions on it, but it's a very interesting story. So here's the YouTube link. It should open up for you guys. I don't know why it's not for me right now. Let me see here if it's. Let me see if I can do it. Your version. Oh, can't do it. I'll have to change the settings. So check that tomorrow. And it's a really interesting story about, so if you're interested in this, crime stories, this lady was basically put into a shed in this guy's backyard. She was kidnapped. So it kind of talks about her story, how she survived it. Really sad story, but a lot of the same things that, accomplice and accessory before, accessory after, a lot of things that we talked about. So that is going to be your agenda for today, and just follow these instructions. I might even add to it, I don't know. But anyway, make sure you guys follow through with this, and check if you have any questions, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer that for you. All right, adios.